Good morning, students. Uh, Today, we are again continuing our medicinal chemistry class on antihistaminic drugs. So basically, we have covered up to the last class, up to this, that is the phenothiazine group of compounds, that is the trimethoprim. We also discussed different phenothiazine group of compounds, like promethazine, like metdialazine, then trimethoprim. So today we'll start with the next class, that is the cycloheptadine. So let's go to the full screen mode. Okay. My pen. Okay. So cycloheptadine, cycloheptadine, because this is actually cycloheptadine. You cannot say heptadine. Actually, we better call it as cycloheptane. Cycloheptane. Right? Because we have already discussed in a previous class when we discussed the structures of these antihistaminic drugs. That is, this is the your cycloheptane moiety. There is a 7-member ring, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there is a double bond. So basically, we know that in the antihistaminic drugs, the syntax is X, CH2, CH2, N, CH3, CH3. Okay, and here one aryl group is there. There is one another aryl group. So basically, you see the two aryl groups here. Okay, and in this here in place of this, actually you see this the two CH2 CH2 is there, but yes, CC CH2 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 CH2, and also CH2 CH2. Actually, this is cyclic chain. We have seen that cyclic chain analogs are also can give your potent antihistaminic drug. Fine. So this is a cyclic chain analog, and here basically there is carbon. If you consider this X, this is actually carbon, and this carbon, the aromatic rings, there are two aromatic rings. Like if you measure the carbon attachment with this aromatic ring, if you imagine two lines, if you imagine two lines that the aromatic rings are placed with this carbon, this is the these two lines are these two imaginary lines which can give you the distance between this carbon and the two aromatic rings. So the aromatic rings which fulfill the criteria here to impart the hydrophobicity on the drug, it is fulfilling here. And here the two aromatic, and in this syntax, the two aromatic rings are basically disjoint with each other. There is no bridge connection between them. But here there is a bridge of connection between them. This bridge and this bridge. So basically this gives you, if you connect the two aromatic rings with two bridge, it basically gives you a cyclic compound, that is the cycloheptane. Okay. So this gives your another potent antihistaminic drug, that is cyproheptadine. This is often used in various liquid formulations, especially in pediatric formulations where you use the antihistaminic drug for cough and cold and other purpose. This cyproheptadine is often used. Okay. Now, if you look at the synthesis of these two drugs, if you recall my earlier lectures onto the synthesis of these two drugs, on the synthesis of antihistaminic drugs, how the linkages are created, how the bonds are created, how two things are joined by condensation, by removal of one HCl or one HOH, okay, or by formation of Grignard reagent and then elimination, what we did in case of the your propane, the propyl amine group of derivatives. Okay? If you recall these things, that what we did in the here, we did the things tripropylene synthesis. We did that Grignard reagent type of addition. Instead of magnesium here is lithium, but it's a Grignard reagent type of addition, organometallic addition. And then we eliminated this OH to yield the double bond here. Okay, so all these techniques, the condensation, HCl elimination or HBr elimination, this Grignard addition, keeping all these things in our view, in our memory, if we try to figure out the synthesis, how can I figure out? The thing is that basically we can conceive that there are two benzene. We can easily have the benzene rings. So, and we can easily have this ring. There is a piperidine ring, right? You can easily have this piperidine ring. So now I first try to conjoin two benzene rings. Okay, I first try to conjoin two benzene rings. How can I conjoin the two benzene rings? If I take one benzene ring like this and I put here CH2Cl. This I can take as starting compound benzyl chloride, because benzyl chloride is also readily available in market, or you can easily synthesize it by Friedel-Crafts alkylation by doing Friedel-Crafts with chloromethyl chloride. Chloromethyl chloride. You can be easily you can synthesize these things very easily. Then I put here, because I have to make this link, so I have to put one linker here. So I am putting one aldehyde group here. Why I am putting aldehyde group, we'll understand later. One aldehyde group here, and plus we are again adding one benzene ring here. Here I am putting one CH2Cl and one here. You can put like bromine here. What is my objective of putting this thing here? Because here is one polar hydrogen, because I have added chlorine here. So chlorine will drag electron from this hydrogen, will make it polar. There is one polar hydrogen. Also here is one polar hydrogen. Okay, and there is halogen here, and also there is halogen. So hydrohalogenation, dehydrohalogenation, the hydrogen halide will be eliminated if I put them together and treat with some base like your alcoholic KOH. Okay, or if I put like say sodamide, what will happen? One chlorine from here and one hydrogen from here will be eliminated, and one chlorine from here and one hydrogen from here will be eliminated. So there will be elimination of two H cell. So now you can link these two carbon. There will be the bond formation. So the next step is that here this now CH double bond CH and fine. And another thing will be there. Here is one hydrogen and one is one bromine. So there is another elimination of HBr. Okay. So this bond will form here. C double bond O. Fine. Why I have kept this the C double bond O? Because there is one double bond here. Okay. So I need to create this double bond by putting one double bond linkage here. So if I put the double bond linkage here now, later it will be easier for me to create this double bond here. So now, how to incorporate this piperidine ring? This is the piperidine ring, basically N-methyl piperidine. Okay, this is piperidine, the saturated form of pyridine, and here it is one methyl, so it is N-methyl piperidine. Okay, so how to incorporate this piperidine ring here together with this double bond? So now, if you recall the Grignard addition and then elimination, you can recall how I can create the double bond in case of the trichloroethylene. The same thing we can approach here also. So just add 1 plus, I'm doing plus, just add 1 N-methyl piperidine with Grignard reagent. So if I add this, what will happen? This OMgCl will be linked to this, okay, and this double bond will come here to link with this carbon. This OMgCl will form, and if OMgCl is formed, the oxygen balance will go up. So to compensate the valency, this double bond will be delocalized. The one bond from this two bond, one bond will be delocalized, and where it will go? It will try to link something. What will link something? This carbon, because MgCl is moving from this carbon. So this carbon is becoming one valency deficit. So this bond will come to this carbon to link with this. So this carbon balance will be satisfied, and here also OMgCl will be formed. So what will be our next product? Next product will be something like this. Here CH double bond CH okay, this here this carbon, here OH, that is the linkage, and here there will be N methyl piperidine like this. OMgCl, the medium contains water or aqueous reagent, so it will be automatically converted to OH, and this linkage, this carbon and this carbon linkage will form Grignard addition. So next step, elimination of water. So just add concentrated H2SO4. So what will be eliminated? So OH and one hydrogen from here will be eliminated. So minus H2O, and you will get the structure of cyproheptadine. See here double bond, then CH3. Okay. There is the double bond. Fine. So just I am using my basic concept to forming the bridges. That's all. So now you can understand how bridges are constructed repeatedly. This is cyproheptadine synthesis. So it's you can understand now. Okay. So just move. We'll move on to our next class drugs. That is this is our second generation antihistaminics. Second generation antihistaminics. So how you have to just remember the basic structural aspects. If no synthesis is now required now. Now, if you see the basic structural aspects of different drugs like astomizole, cetirizine, azatidine, loratadine, tarpinine, you see the basic syntax of antihistaminic drugs are maintained. Okay, you see how it is maintained. Say if you look at the astemizole actually what are the heterocyclic ring present? sometimes the question may come, what is the heterocyclic ring present in the acetylmethod? There are two heterocyclic rings present. One is this one, benzimidazole. Actually, benzimidazole is the few strong. The basic heterocyclic ring is the imidazole. Then one heterocyclic ring is present is piperidine. So zole is actually coming from imidazole. Now, how do you see the basic? This is something like your propylamine derivatives, CH2, CH2. Propylamine derivative. With that, again one terminal nitrogen is placed, and with the heterocyclic rings and the fluorinated things are present. Okay? Heterocyclic rings and the fluorinated rings are present. Now, if you put the fluorine, and here you see the side chain. Again, we put a side chain like CH2, CH2, then phenyl, and then OCH2. Now, what is the significance of this kind of structure? You see here, I'm coming. Then you first look at this cetirizine. Cetirizine here you will see this is a piperazine. We have studied different piperazine derivatives. So this is basically piperazine, but here is one. The two aryl group criteria are maintained here with this carbon. Okay, two aryl group here. It is aryl group criteria is maintained here with this nitrogen. Nitrogen is connected to the benzimidazole. Here carbon is contained with the two aromatic ring. That is the basic criteria of antihistaminic drugs. Then piperazine, and then the side chain CH2, CH2, O, and then acetic acid. This one, the whole thing is the acetic acid. So this is, you see, CH2, COH. So in cetirizine, the zine part is coming from this piperazine. The cetirizine is coming from this zine part, that is the piperazine. Okay. Now, you see, if you see at this drug, the second generation one, azatidine. This is simply just like of what you have just studied, the cyproheptadine. If you look at this, the cyproheptadine, this structure is almost similar, right? What is the difference? One pyridyl group, one pyridine ring is used here. One pyridine ring is used. Actually, benzene, pyridine are bioesters. Pyridine is more electronegative, that can give rise to more potent structures. So you just put one pyridine ring here, and that you can get a more potent derivative, that is azatidine. Fine. So you see, we are varying among propylamine, piperazine, then keeping the aromatic criteria same, then the cyproheptadine, cycloheptane analog. And one thing is that this portion is saturated. It is saturated. There was one double bond here and it's saturated. So pi electron cloud is less here. So one pi electron cloud is less here. Otherwise, it is same. So it's all are biosteric with each other. This is very small variation. If you eliminate one double bond or put one pyridine group, this is small changes. But overall, the structure is same with the cyproheptadine or the cycloheptane group of compound. See? Then you come to this loratadine. In loratadine also you find the incorporation of the same moiety. There is the cycloheptane. You see the cycloheptane, one pyridine is there, like azatidine. But here one chlorine is additionally incorporated. There one chlorine, 1 minute. It is here one chlorine is additionally incorporated. Why? Because to impart more electronegativity on the structure, like we're in acetylmethod incorporated fluorine here, right? Actually, fluorine, when we incorporated this kind of thing, there's so much electronegative. That is, they are very susceptible to form hydrogen bonds with the receptor. So this is one reason of incorporation. That is, it is more likely to form hydrogen bonds. Next, if you put fluorine, it becomes more hydrophobic, that is more lipophilic, because the fluorine is highly electronegative. It has so much electron cloud over them that those electron clouds means they will repel with each other and they will form a altogether bigger electron cloud. And the more electron cloud is there, it will put more steric repulsion with water. The more electron cloud is there, it will put more steric repulsion into water, because water also has more many electrons to oxygen. It will put more steric repulsion with water, so it will become not soluble in water. It will become more insoluble in water. So it becomes more hydrophobic, or in other words, more lipophilic. Okay? So fluorine will impart on a molecule, it becomes more lipophilic, so the cell permeation or reaching towards the target receptor by by receptor mediated endocytosis, or uh, by forming different kinds of endosomes are much easier. Only thing is that you do not put that much of fluorine or fluorine, it becomes toxic, because fluorine and fluorine sometimes uh, are so bulky, they are so electronegative, sometimes they cause uh, local accumulation of fluid, local accumulation of ions, and that can cause accumulation. So sometimes may become toxic. Otherwise, they become more lipophilic and susceptible to form more hydrogen bonds with the receptor. Okay. Then you come here. In the rest part, there is one more substitution is present. But if I ask you that loratadine, what is the basic analog, then you can easily recall that this is a cycloheptane derivative with one pyridine. And of course, in the side chain, there is also piperidine, like we have already been taught in case of cyproheptadine. So loratadine. Uh, Actually, you can in other way, in another way, you can remember like this, that green portion, okay, this that hepta comes from the cycloheptane, and green portion comes from here. That is the piperidine. This is piperidine. So this dene, piperidine, leads to the adene, but dene suffix of this compound. So hepta, cycloheptane, this Psi stands for cyclo, hept stands for cycloheptane, and adene, that is the piperidine. Similarly, loratadine, dene comes for piperidine. And so piperidine usually where is present in the side chain is present in cycloheptane kind of drugs. Okay? And apart from cyproheptadine, only cyproheptadine, cyproheptadine, you see two benzene rings side by side with one linkage like this. You see two benzene rings side by side. But here, in other drugs like loratadine or here azatidine, this kind of compound, they have at least one pyridyl group. Not only aromatic benzene, but at least one pyridyl group. Why this pyridyl group coming later? Then terfenadine. Terfenadine is simple, like propyl amine derivatives. This is carbon, then CH2, CH2. So here is also CH2. So you see propyl, then amine. So this propylamine derivatives but cyclic. And here is the two aromatic ring criteria are fulfilled from this carbon. And here is one linker carbon here. One linker carbon here. So this we have already seen in case of here, that is cetrizine. Only difference in cetrizine is that the major difference with cetrizine is that here piperazine is present, one nitrogen is present, but here CH is present. Okay, so cetrizine means piperazine, so here we will having piperazine. Terfenadine, so terfenadine means no azine, so there is no piperazine. It's just dene. Dene means piperidine. So this is the piperidine. This is adene. I have told adene comes from, but dene or adene comes from piperidine, so this is the piperidine. Okay. Fen stands for the phenyl. Two phenyl groups are there, so this is fen. Okay. So this is terphenadine. Okay. Phenyl piperidine group of compound. So like this, you can remember the basic code. You don't, if you can't remember, actually, if you can't remember also the exact substituent, at least you need to remember the basic code like this. So how can I remember the basic code? Okay. So this is how you can remember the basic code: loratadine, terphenadine, yeah. Cetirizine, azatidine, and azatidine and loratadine. So you know the cyproheptadine group of compounds. Cyproheptadine group of compounds having one pyridine. So like this, astemizole, that is imidazole group containing compound. Okay, and then you have this propylamine. There, fluorine side chain is there, astemizole. So these are the structures. Then you are coming to our popular. This is the H2 blockers, which are used as anti-ulcer. H2 blockers. That is the reduced gastric secretion. H2 blockers. That is the anti-ulcer group of compounds. So first here, question comes based on the basic heterocyclic moiety present in this ring. Based on the basic heterocyclic moiety present in this ring. That is, what heterocyclic moiety is present in cimetidine, what heterocyclic moiety is present in famotidine, what heterocyclic moiety is present in ranitidine. Okay. In cimetidine, what is heterocyclic moiety present? Imidazole. In famotidine, thiazole, and in ranitidine, furan. So this is imidazole. Cimetidine, it is containing imidazole. This is thiazole. And this is furan. So ranitidine contains furan. And in the side chain, the presence of this kind of nitrogen, guanidine like nitrogen. What is guanidine? NH2 C double one NH NH2. This is called guanidine. So this is NH. So this kind of linkage is present here, here, also here. So this kind of guanidine type of side chain is present, and apart from that, the variation comes in the heterocyclic ring, that is imidazole, thiazole, or furan. Okay. Then one synthesis of these drugs is in a syllabus, so we have to cover that. That is the cimetidine synthesis. Okay. Cimetidine synthesis. Now, how the cimetidine synthesis is done? Cimetidine synthesis, to make cimetidine synthesis, as a cimetidine has imidazole ring system, right? So I have narrated here how this is basically imidazole ring is constructed. Yeah, how imidazole ring is constructed. Now we are taking this one as our starting compound. We are taking this one as our starting compound. Okay. And we are treating this with one formamide. We are treating this with one formamide. Formamide. What is formamide? The amide of formic acid. So it is NH2CHO. What is formic acid? HCOH. So if you do the amidation, it forms HCONH2, formamide, right? So taking the formamide, this formamide, the nitrogen here is a source of one imidazolic nitrogen, and we are taking one ammonia. We are taking one ammonia. So formamide and ammonia. So formamide, actually, if you take in the medium formic acid and ammonia, they are enough because they will also produce formamide as well as it will also have the free ammonia. So you will have both formamide and ammonia if you consider taking the two components in the reaction medium. So now how the reaction is occurring. Okay. How the reaction is occurring. This is what is this compound? Basically, this is ethyl, the chlorine derivative. It is the 2-chloro ethyl acetoacetate. This is ethyl acetate. If you consider this thing, this is ethyl acetate. CH2COH, then ethyl ester, ethyl acetate. Now, if you number 1, 2, 3, so this is 2-chloro. Now, here is another extra group present. What is this group? CH3CO. This CH3CO group is the acetyl group. Acetyl group. This is the acetyl group. So this is acetyl derivative of 2-chloroethyl acetate. This is the acetyl derivative of 2-chloroethyl acetate. This is the ethyl acetate. This is the 2-chloro derivative. This is the acetyl group. This is acid. So this is 2-chloroethyl acetoacetate. We do not call it as acetyl derivative. Rather, we call it altogether as aceto. Okay, acetyl derivative we call it as the aceto. So 2-chloroethyl acetoacetate. This compound. Okay. So I'm changing the color. 2-chloroethyl acetoacetate. Then you take the formamide, then you take the ammonia. Now, how the imidazole ring is getting constructed? You see, I am rewritten the 2-chloroethyl acetoacetate like this. It is the 2-chloroethyl acetate like this. Now, I have changed one thing. That is, I have made it in a tautomeric form. Tautomeric form. You see, here previously one C double bond O is there, and there is no double bond here. If you see this part, if you see this part, if you see here, there is no double bond here. Okay, there is no double bond in between this carbon and this carbon. Now I have done the ketoenol tautomerism in this bond. Here I have done the ketoenol tautomerism, so I have moved the hydrogen here and put the double bond here. Okay. If you do the ketoenol tautomerism, it is easy to demonstrate any condensation or elimination because it can get the hydroxyl. These are the basic tricks. If you have the ketone, to see if you can do the ketoenol tautomerism, and then your reaction will become to produce, because there is the free OH group to be eliminated or condensed. So I have done this ketoenol tautomerism, and it is the tautomeric form. Okay. Ketoenol. Ketoenol tautomeric form. Fine. Now this is the formamide. I have again made it in a tautomeric form. There was in formamide, you see, what you have HCONH2, HC double bond NH2. So what I have done, I have put one hydrogen in enolic form to this oxygen. You see, so it becomes COH. Okay. You had H C double bond O NH2. So I am writing as NHH. So this hydrogen goes here and this bond comes here. So it becomes H C OH double bond. This is actually it was enol. This type of compound is enol. enol. Why it is enol? Because double bond is there, that is in double bond, you know the double bond you can write as in, and this is hydroxy, write as all. So in plus all, there is one double bond, and the adjacent of this double bond we get one alcohol which is represented by all, so it becomes enol. Fine. So this is enolic form, but this is not enol because at one this is, here one simple carbon is present, but here one nitrogen is present, right? There was only simple carbon is present and nitrogen, so there is some variation. So this is basically is called it is not ketoenol tautomerism, it is enol amine tautomerism. Enol amine tautomerism form. It's enol amine tautomeric form. So I have used the enol amine tautomeric form here. It's just like ketoenol tautomerism, only in place of carbon there is one nitrogen. So I've used the enol amine tautomeric form so that I can easily demonstrate, I can easily display the elimination afterwards. Fine. So I got this, the 2-chloroethyl acetate. I got this, the formamide, and here is one simple ammonia. See, NH3, N with the N, there are 3 hydrogens. So as I have told you that you can, when you are constructing some heterocyclic ring, you cannot just incorporate the hydrogen or heteroatom there. You just cannot incorporate the nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, etc. there. Rather, when you are preparing the ring, you have to strategically choose your reagent and strategically choose your condensation so that the heteroatoms now after the reaction becomes part of the ring. The heteroatoms after the reaction becomes part of the ring. So I have strategically chosen the reagents and I have strategically chosen the forms so that I can show after condensation the heteroatoms are getting incorporated in the ring. Now see, now if you condense them by adding by dehydrohalogenation or by dehydration reactions, you put one dehydrohalogenating reagent like alcoholic KOH, or you put concentrated H2SO4 like here, so that the dehydration reaction takes place here. To see how the reaction is going on, I have placed the entire syntax like this so that I can easily show you how the imidazole is formed. Now, so you see HCl first I am getting eliminated from here. I'm doing the HCl elimination from here so that I can make the bridge between this nitrogen and this carbon. Okay. Then I am eliminating one water from here, this hydroxy and then hydrogen. Why? Because I can bridge this carbon and nitrogen here, because I need the linkage of carbon and nitrogen here in the imidazole. Fine. And then again I am eliminating this OH and H so that I can bridge this nitrogen and carbon here. Fine. So I'm bridging this nitrogen and carbon here. So now you see the 5-membered ring is formed. Okay, having the CH3 here, having the COCH. Why? Because it will be required afterwards to make the cimetidine, the whole drug. But the 5-membered ring is formed, and here I have got the 2 nitrogens here at 1,3 positions with 2 double bonds. You see, 1 double bond here, this, and 1 double bond here, this. So you can see how strategically the reagents are chosen so that I can got the imidazole ring, which is required for cimetidine. In the remedial organic class, I have also shown you how pyrrole ring is synthesized by just adding the diketo acids like adipic acid and then just adding ammonia and then with the condensation like Pal non synthesis or non-pyrrole synthesis. Furan ring also you can synthesize by the condensation of the dicarboxylic acids. Just do the condensation dicarboxylic acid, just do some ketoenol tautomerism, do the ketoenol tautomerism, strategically place the whole ring structure, the whole compound structure like this, so that one hydroxyl becomes close to the hydrogen of the distant carbon, and then do the condensation, so the HOH will be eliminated and you will get the phenol. Okay, so here how we have synthesized a imidazole ring in the cimetidine. Fine, hope you have understood this. Now get back to our main synthesis here. Okay, so now you see I have got here. Sorry, pointer. Okay, so we have already got this ring, the imidazole ring, 1 methyl, 1 OET. Now you reduce this with lithium aluminum hydride. So what will happen? This ester will be reduced to CH2OH. Okay, this ester will be reduced to CH2OH. Why? Because in the next step I need to condense this. So you add this with ethyl mercaptoamine, but 2 mercaptoethylamine. So 2 mercaptoethylamine, SH, CH2, CH2, NH2. 2 mercaptoethylamine. Mercapto is this group, this thiol group when it is placed like a substituent. So it is called mercapto. 2 mercapto, 1, 2. 2 position mercapto is there, 2 mercaptoethylamine. This is the ethylamine, CH2, CH2, NH2. Okay. So 48% ethyl mercaptoamine you add, okay, and then reflux for 18 hours. So what will happen? Condensation will take place. This OH and this H will go out. So you'll form this linkage. Sorry, you form this linkage first. This is the last one. So you form this linkage. This OH and H will go. You see, there is CH2 and there is sulfur is incorporated. Okay. So here will be minus H2. Basically, water will go out. Minus H2. Then you have this one. Then you add this compound. Okay. Here is carbon. This is a particular side chain. You put this. When you put this, what will happen? Here SME means S-methyl. S-methyl. There is also S-methyl. Okay. So if you do this, if you reflux this for 16 hours with ethanol, what will happen? A CH3 from here and 1 hydrogen from here. So S CH3 and 1 hydrogen. So it is mercaptomethane. It is mercaptomethane, it is a thiol. Okay, methyl thiol. We know the methanol CH3OH. It is just like that, methyl thiol. In case of oxygen, there is sulfur. So it is a mercaptomethane or methyl thiol. It will come out. This CH3 and H, it will come out. So when it will come out, the rest part of the ring will be incorporated like this. So it will come out and this nitrogen will form the linkage with this carbon. Nitrogen will form the linkage with this carbon because this S-methyl is coming out. So this carbon is becoming deficient. So it will, and 1 hydrogen is coming out. So the nitrogen is also becoming 1 bond deficient. So they two will pair up to make each other's valency. So this nitrogen is this one and this carbon is this one. So incorporate the side chain here. Now the last step, the structure is you have to put here N-methyl, not S-methyl. So how to do this step, how to put the N-methyl there? You again treat this with methylamine. You again treat this with like you have treat this with 2 mercaptoethylamine. So like this, you have to again treat this with methylamine. So what will happen? 1 hydrogen from here and the SME, SCH3 and H will again come out, minus 1 hydrogen and SME, that is the S-methyl will come out as mercaptomethane, and the rest part, that is a CH3NH. What is remaining here? CH3NH. This CH3NH you see, will be attached to this carbon. CH3NH will be attached to this carbon. So you get this carbon attached with N-methyl. This CH3NH means N-methyl. This is NCH3 attached to this carbon. Okay. So actually one hydrogen will be here. So this is your cimetidine synthesis. The first step, construction of the basic imidazole ring, then slowly constructing the side chain. Okay. Maybe this synthesis is a bit complicated than the earlier ones. The earlier one, the ethylene diamine derivatives or amino alkyl ethers or propylamine derivatives or propylenamine, that tripropylene, then piperazine ring synthesis, cyclizine, meclizine, buclizine, then piperidine, that is cycloheptadine, all these syntheses. They are straightforward, you know how to form the linkages. Here you have to think a bit, you have to practice a bit, and you can then digest this synthesis, that is the cimetidine synthesis. Is a prototype synthesis. This is incorporated why to make you first understand how the heterocyclic ring is synthesized, and second you need to understand when you have given a job to incorporate inside chain to a part as a part of the compound or the side of the compound, how you can use the condensation or other reactions to make it done. Okay, so slowly applying these two concepts, you will understand how a bit complicated compound with complicated heterocyclic chemistry or geometry can be synthesized. Okay. So okay, you just practice 3, 4, 5 times with logical explanation of part by part, so you can have a good grip on this. So cimetidine synthesis. Then we come to the last part of our lecture on antihistaminic drugs, that is the SAR part. Okay, now SAR I have already discussed a lot when we have started in the structural aspects and chemical classification aspects of this group of compounds. I have told you how bioisosterism, electronegative atoms, heteroatoms are coming in place to give rise of different class of compounds in antihistaminic drugs. So if you recall that, the SAR is very easy. You know the syntax of these drugs. Sorry, you know the you know the syntax of these drugs. You know why CH2N portion is given, because this gives you, actually for antihistaminic drugs it will be n equal to 2 usually. Now why n equal to 2? Because this gives your optimum activity. N equal to 2 is gives your optimum activity. Okay, you have seen, and this CH2 can be linear, can be part of a cycle, part of a cyclic ring, linear or part of a cyclic ring. Actually, when you are putting as a part of a cyclic ring, you are increasing the hydrophobicity. Okay, so the activity, the chance of cell permeation plus activity goes high when you put as a part of cyclic ring. So if you put as a part of cyclic ring like this, so basically you have to put 2 to 4, one side 2, other side 2, 4 CH2 groups. So the chance of hydrophobicity is more. So hydrophobic interaction with the lipid receptor is more, plus lipophilicity of the compound is more, so the cell permeation will be more. Okay, so this is the but overall this part gives you the hydrophobic interaction. The ethylene bridge gives you the hydrophobic interaction with the receptor, and the receptor, it helps to fit the compound in the binding pocket of the receptor. Okay? In the binding pocket of the receptor. And next part is coming, this X. I have already told the X may be carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. If we put oxygen, nitrogen, the electronegativity is more. So the electronegativity is more means there is the more polarity in this side. The more polarity is in this side, so it is having a chance to exert or introduce more polar interaction with the receptor. More polar interaction with the receptor, including hydrogen bonding. Because hydrogen bonding will be more favorable if you have the oxygen nitrogen on one end and the hydrogen on the other end. So it will increase the chance of both polar interaction with the hydrogen bonding with the receptor. So this is one important part of putting the X here. Now, if you increase the carbon chain, if you put in carbon instead of oxygen nitrogen, basically lipophilicity goes high. Why lipophilicity goes high? Because putting the number of carbons more, it makes it more lipid-like. So lipophilicity goes more, and cell permeation, everything goes more. Okay. Next, come to these two aryl groups. Now, one important criteria of two aryl groups is there. First of all, what is the purpose of aryl groups? The aryl groups purpose are two. One is to exert pi-pi interaction with the receptor, because aryl groups have a lot of pi clouds, pi electron clouds. So it will exert pi-pi interaction with the receptor, with the compound pi electron and receptor pi electron. They will exert the pi-pi interaction with each other. This is the first thing. Second thing is that it will exert the hydrophobic interaction, because aryl groups are also hydrophobic. So putting two hydrophobic groups or two aryl groups will enhance the chance of compound binding with the receptor. Fine. Okay. But one thing that I have not told you earlier, that is the planarity of these things and the chirality of the antihistaminic compounds. Now, two important things you have to remember. That is, one is the called planarity. Okay, planarity, and second thing is the chirality of the compound. So, planarity, then chirality, and heterocyclic ring. Presence of heterocyclic aromatic ring. What is planarity? What is about planarity of the compounds? These two aromatic groups should not be coplanar. Should not be, not equal to coplanar. If they are coplanar, activity is reduced. But if they are not coplanar, if the two aromatic groups are not in the same plane, the chance of activity is becoming higher. The chance of activity becomes higher if they are not coplanar. But if they're coplanar, sometimes give activity but reduce activity. Okay, so they should not be coplanar. And then chirality. If this carbon is chiral, like is of cetirizine, then the question of isomerism comes in heterocyclic. Then the question of isomerism comes in antihistaminic compounds. If this X is chiral, for example, if I go back to cetirizine, you see this carbon is chiral. This carbon is chiral because this carbon is flanked with 4 different groups. There is one chlorophenyl, there is one phenyl, there is one nitrogen, and of course it has its own hydrogen. So 4 different groups are attached. So this carbon is chiral carbon. So when the chiral carbon concept of chirality comes, then you have to understand that it should have 2 isomers, either in R or S configuration or in dextro LIGO configuration. Okay? Dextro LIGO configuration. So you have to then see which configuration is more active. Then one configuration should be more active over the other. If the compound contains a kind of chirality, it will either give rise to RS configuration or just to dextro configuration. So whatever configuration it may give rise, you have to check which configuration is more active. For example, for cetirizine, LIGO form is more active. So levocetirizine is more popular in the market, not dextrocetirizine. So this question of chirality should be aware, should be aware when you're dealing with this kind of compounds. Okay, and then presence of the heterocyclic aromatic ring. Now, if the two aromatic rings are just benzene rings, simple phenyl ring, that is a benzene ring, there is one type of activity, also activity was fine. But if one aromatic ring is changed to its isosteric heterocyclic analog, if one aromatic ring is changed to its isosteric heterocyclic analog, like pyridine or like thiazole, they are like imidazole, or like the case of pyridine, you just take azatidine there. In case of azatidine, there is pyridine is there, right? Loratadine, pyridine is there. Or in case of your previously you have seen that in case of zolamine, thiazole ring is there. Okay, so a lot of compounds you will see these things of isosteric replacement with heterocyclic ring. If you put the heterocyclic ring, the potency goes much higher. To put one heterocyclic ring, heterocyclic aromatic ring as isosteric replacement of normal benzene, the potency goes higher. For example, if you put a pyridine ring here, the activity improves from 2 to 40 times. The activity may improve from 2 times to 40 times. Only thing is that this kind of heterocyclic ring sometimes it becomes hard to metabolize. So sometimes it may cause metabolic toxicity, but otherwise, this heterocyclic ring can give you more potency. Okay? The heterocyclic aromatic ring. Okay? And the last thing what I want to point out, this is the paint color. In color, I am going to blue. What I point out that the distance, if it is the one terminal of the heterocyclic, one terminal of the antihistaminic drug in normal syntax, and this amine terminal is the other end of these antihistaminic drugs, then the distance between two terminal of the molecule, the distance between two terminal of the molecule should be in between 5 to 6 angstrom. For optimum activity, this the distance between the two terminal of the compound should be 5 to 6 angstrom. Why this kind of distance is crucial? Because everything depends on receptor geometry of the receptor and its binding pocket. The compound has to fit in the binding pocket. If it can't fit in the binding pocket, it goes out of the binding pocket, so the activity will be lost or activity will be reduced. So there should be a diameter of the binding pocket. There should be a length between the end of the binding pocket to which the molecule should fit. So if the binding pocket diameter matches with the compound diameter, the diameter with the terminals, the diameter matches with the binding pocket diameter, it can very nicely fit into the binding pocket, and then it can be bound with this very well. So these 5 to 6 angstrom criteria between the two terminals of the antihistaminic drugs basically helps it to bind with to fit inside the binding pocket of the receptor very well. So this is one important criteria of the ACR structure activity relationship. So like this you can deconvolute the entire ACR. I'll post one separate lecture. I'll post one separate note on the ACR of antihistaminic drugs in the Google Classroom. You just download that and you go to first 2-3 pages. You can find the general ACR, right? And in the next subsequent pages, you will find the small ACR of different class, like piperazine class, ethylene diamine class, propylamine class, amino alkyl ether class. The first 2 pages, basically 2.5 pages, you could find the general ACR, and then in subsequent pages, the pharmacological activity and small ACR of the individual class. So these things all are nicely depicted there. And so you can, from your concept also, you can write this. First, you write the structure, general syntax of the drug, then you deconvolute the structure in 4 parts. That is the terminal aryl groups, then this linker X, then the ethylene bridge, and then the terminal nitrogen. This terminal nitrogen, why it is required, I have already shown from your first structural class and receptor interaction that this nitrogen has lone pair of electron. Basically, this nitrogen is less basic. Why less basic? Because 2 methyl groups are there, so it is not like basic amine. It is less basic, but it has the lone pair of electrons. It can donate to H plus and can absorb the H plus. So it can become protonated like this, NH plus. It can become protonated by NH plus. When it becomes NH plus, it can exert the polar interaction with the receptor. Polar interaction with the receptor. Okay. So this kind of polar interaction, there are, if the receptor has the charged amino acid residues, charged amino acid residues like your glutamic acid, aspartic, which is easily ionizable. Then your serine, which is ionizable hydroxyl group. Then your guanidine containing amino acids. Okay. Uh, so if these amino acids, so this receptor contains, then sometimes proline is also there, which can be protonated because proline has pyrrole side chain, and pyrrole side chain, the nitrogen also can be protonated. So that protonated form and this protonated form also make them interact. But this is hard to interact with proline because both are positively charged. But in case of aspartic acid, it is negatively charged. Glutamic acid, it is negatively charged. Okay, serine is OH. It is the serine hydroxyl group is ionized. It can be negatively charged. Then guanidine containing amino acids can be negatively charged also. So this polar amino terminal, this charged amino terminal, can well interact with those amino acids in the receptor. Okay? So it just distribute the four parts: the aryl part, X part, methylene rich part, and amine part, and deconvolute one by one, like I have told. Then the whole molecular diameter, 5 to 6 angstrom. Then influence of heterocyclic rings, influence of cyclic chains. Okay, influence of polar groups like fluorine, chlorine, what I have already told in case of astimazole or other class of compounds like loratadine. So you just deconvolute those and your SAR will be there. Fine. So overall with this, I'll post also that SAR note in the Google Classroom. So with this, I conclude the lecture of antihistaminic drugs right from the structure, chemical classification, mechanism of action, then H1 blockers, H2 blockers, then different chemical class, their structures, their synthesis, how to do the synthesis with concepts. Okay, then SAR structure relationship, different structure relationship aspect, the logic behind it, the concept of isostatism in this, everything. So go through my lectures, go through the notes, go through the books. I've already posted some books in the Google Classroom. The links are also given in Google Classroom. You can use them or you can use yours, and hope you'll be benefited in future to in solving questions from this antihistaminic group of compounds. Thank you. Thank you for attending my lecture.